Hello, my babes. Welcome to another self-reflection Sunday. Today, I'm going to be talking about codependency and enmeshment in my own life as a self-reflection, obviously, for self-reflection Sunday. Okay, and to do that, I'm going to take you back in time and do some timeline hopping back to last year summer. I think it was about June or July when I finally decided to make the move to take time off of work, right? I've been going really hard on my business for about three years or 3.5 years without really much of a break. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do it. Finally took the plunge. I was so nervous and taking the break. And like, but I needed it, I was tired, and I also wanted to figure out like what I wasn't doing in terms of like systems and things I needed to put in place because I was burnt out, and I needed like a different level essentially, right? And I needed to take the space to figure that out. Okay. So, anyways, that aside, right? I took the break. I think it started in June or July. And what happened was that during that time, my partner and I had been together for just under half a year. Okay. And if you're unsure what codependency is, right? Codependency is when we people please a lot and we start kind of like caretaking someone else, right? And in that process, we kind of like negate our own selves and like put our own shit on the back burner, right? Like that's like a really loose like definition of codependency. If you want a more accurate like medical one, like go Google it or whatever, right? But anyways, so like with that said, and then enmeshment is like essentially when someone, like you and someone else almost feel like you've become one person. So like their moods affect your moods, their happiness becomes your happiness, or their bad, like, when they're unhappy, you're unhappy, all kinds of things, right? And for us, like BBs who are really empathetic, it's really easy for us to become enmeshed with another person, right? There's nothing wrong with being able to be empathetic. In fact, it's a superpower, right? And at the same time, we need to learn to like have boundaries with it as well and not let it affect our own lives when someone else's life is like, something's happening in their life and then it totally becomes our life. And it's just like, no, like we need a bit of that separation, right? You can still be empathetic and caring without taking this other person's everything on, okay? Anyways, that's just side note. But yeah, what I found was like, now that I'm like self-reflecting and looking back at that time, was that it was kind of like the perfect time and the perfect environment for my codependency and my enmeshment tendencies to rear its head, right? Because what at first seemed just like love and support quickly became me like being codependent and enmeshing. And like, so let me explain that a little bit. So once I started taking my sabbatical, right, I had all of this space, right? And all of that space was intended for me to chill the fuck out, take a break, relax, get like a bunch of sleep, get my health in order, just kind of my routines with like the gym and eating well and drinking enough water and all those kinds of things, like my stuff, right? But it turned out that my codependency had other ideas. And so when I took that break and I had all that space, instead of, like, I did do those things, right? But then I piled something on top, which was my partner's stuff. So my partner at the time, um, like, had just, I think, gotten like their own business number, like, and all of this kind of stuff. And I know a lot in terms of how to run a business from the back end, right? Admin work. So I basically, like, started helping him with all of that stuff. And in my mind, which, like, I thought was a brilliant, or at least my brain thought it was a brilliant idea at the time, I was like, how about I just, like, not focus on my own things really much in terms of um like trying to figure out anything for work. Well, because guess what, I'm taking a sabbatical, so I'm allowed to not think about my work. But now let me think about your work, right? Now let me help you with your systems and help you with all this kind of stuff. And essentially, uh, what happened was I started caretaking him in his business. And I, like, my brain even had this idea of, like, hey, you don't even, like, need to get back to your business. You can just help him build his up. And he can be the front, like, it can be his business, but, like, you're a part of it, and you're gonna help him, and, like, that'll be that. Like, that'll be like your life. Like, literally, my brain was like, that's the that's the road that it wanted to go down. And it, which will sound crazy to anyone that actually really knows me, right? Because that is not me. I am a businesswoman, not in terms of, like, doing admin work and doing back end work for someone. No, I am, like, front. I'm like boss bitch. I'm like, the one that builds the business and, like, is in front of the camera and, like, all these kinds of things, right? So it was a really interesting thing for my brain to do, to be like, actually, I'm going to, like, drop all of that and now get on board with this other person's life, right? And I think that this is really common for women, especially just because we naturally have been socialized to be caretakers, and we're just, like, nurturing in general, right? That's our natural state. And so it's really easy for us to slip into that, right? Nothing wrong with that. You know what I'm saying? Um, and at the same time, if that's not actually what you want for your life, then yes, there is something wrong because you're not listening to your own truth, right? And so, yeah, as I was reflecting on that, um, recently, I was like, holy fuck, that's so weird that my brain did that, that it literally wanted me to drop all of my dreams, all of the goals and aspirations that I wanted for myself. It literally was like, it's a good idea for you to just throw that all away and now focus on this other person's shit, you know? And what happened when I started doing that, though, was really interesting, okay? Because I think a lot of the times when we start doing that, when we start making someone else the center of our lives, not only are we, like, taking on all of their things, but we're also expecting them to make us happy, right? And the thing about happiness is, I'm sure you've heard, it's an inside job. So relying on someone else to, like, create happiness for you, it ain't a thing. You know what I mean? Like, yes, they can contribute to your happiness, but, like, baseline level, it has to be you. You know, um, unless you can tell me in the comments if you've been able to fully base your happiness off someone else and like be good with that, and like you're really, really happy with your own life and stuff. Like if that's you, please let me know, because I would love to open my mind around that. But like just from what I've seen, right, it's not really a thing, because happiness is an inside job. And what started happening was I was like kind of getting resentful in the background unknowingly of like, you are literally totally ignoring all of your own stuff. Like, this is not the path you want to go on. You're not meant to be someone's admin and secretary or assistant, right? Like, you're meant to be doing like this, right? This kind of a thing, right? And so as time went on, from summer, around June, July, all the way to around December, our relationship actually started to go like spiral downwards, right? There was other factors involved, but I think for me, on my side of everything, this was a huge reason why, right? Because I was unhappy with the decisions I was making for my own self. And that was like reflecting onto the relationship. And then and at the same time, relying on this other person for my happiness. And it was just like freaking like craziness, like crazy. It was crazy, right? And my friends will tell you I was so emotionally unstable, right? There was other factors in that, because I stopped smoking the MJ at one point when I was in Asia in January. That's when I was like super emotionally unstable. And that was when the relationship, from December was like kind of like falling apart. And then by January, it was really falling apart. And then if you've been following along, right, we broke up for about a week in like February, right? But here's the thing that I realized is that it wasn't actually him that was making me miserable. It was me. Because I was enmeshing with him, and I, again, was making all of these decisions that weren't aligned with my truth of like what I really wanted to do in this life, right? And I think so often in relationships, we blame the other person for our unhappiness when it's actually our own shit, right? Like, it's the decisions we're making, and like for our own selves. And what am I trying to say? Essentially, like, if you're not creating your own happiness, someone else can't do it for you. Like, they may be able to for a short while, like, during the honeymoon stage, when you first meet someone, hell yeah, you're going to feel great, right? But usually what happens after a few months or like half of a year, right? That honeymoon stage, it's a stage, so it passes by, and then you're back to where you were before the relationship started happening, right? And if you were unhappy then, guess what you're going to be now? You know what I'm saying? So it's just kind of like, I guess what I'm trying to say with this self-reflection Sunday is, like, use my mistake in terms of relying on someone else for happiness, and apply it to your own life and see if it's maybe something you're doing, something maybe you've done before, that you didn't really notice, like, that's what I'm hoping for with these self-reflection Sundays, is that you see something in yourself that you can reflect on as well, right? So, yeah, to flip it onto you, right? Back onto you, or onto you, whatever. Check to see if codependency is rearing its head, or if enmeshment is rearing its head, because it's so easy to go there. Like, I know a lot about codependency, and I know quite a bit also about enmeshment. And yet, just last year, which is not that long ago, I started doing it. You know what I'm saying? And there's nothing wrong with doing those things, right? It's very, very normal, especially for women, right? And the thing is, are you going to catch it, right? Because you do it, cool, whatever. But now what are you going to do about it? You know what I'm saying? So, like, I'm just really glad that I was able to be like, okay, what the hell is actually happening? I am so goddamn miserable right now. And I could blame my partner if I wanted to, but that takes all of my own power away. If I put it all in his hands, I can't do anything about it. You know what I mean? So, what I did was I was like, I'm pretty sure something is off. What is going on? And I started listening to this book called, I think it's called Codependent No More. Anyways, I'll link it in the show notes underneath once I find it, okay? But yeah, it's called Codependency No More or Codependent No More. And I started listening to that audiobook when I was in Asia in January, when things were really like shit was hitting the fan, like in my relationship, and my emotions were all over the place because I wasn't smoking weed when I was in Asia and I was coming off of that, right? That can be like an episode for a different time, self-reflection Sunday of my weed journey, right? But yeah, so I started listening to that book and I was like, holy fuck, I'm doing the codependency thing again. And I'm enmeshing again, and I need to start taking action, right? So I started making a plan of getting off of my sabbatical, which in my mind had pretty much turned into like, I don't know actually if I'm gonna go back to work kind of thing, right? So I had to make a plan to get off my sabbatical, get back on my own shit, start, planning shit for my business, stuff that I enjoyed doing and that I liked, that was like my thing, not just his thing, right? And then slowly but surely, I started being happy again. And now we're in, what is it? It's April now, right? My partner and I broke up for a week in February because shit was just like not going well. Then we got back together. And now I'm in just like a whole different energy because I took some action in terms of creating my own happiness, right? So before you go and blame your partner for everything, right? Take a look. Take a look at your own life. Are you doing the things you want, right? Are you honoring your truth? Are you going after your goals? If not, work on those things first. Like, never mind your partner, right? Work on those things. And if in like 3-4 months of doing that and you're still unhappy in your relationship, then okay, like, maybe you guys gotta like reassess or something, right? Yeah, that's all, So yeah, that's my self-reflection Sunday on my codependency and an enmeshment. Hope you got something out of it. If you enjoyed it, right, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, right? I think it's just like down below where you can subscribe. Subscribe. Please like the video if you liked it, right? And maybe share with a friend that may be going through some shit and they're kind of trying to figure out like what the hell is going on, right? This might be their ticket out, right? So yeah, that is all, babes. Thank you so much for being here. I love you, and I'll talk to you later, okay? Bye.